Hello everyone, welcome back to another Commander review for Magic the Gathering. Today, we are talking about Sensei Golden Tail from the Champions of Kamigawa set. Sensei Golden Tail is a legendary Fox Samurai. It's a 2-1, and it has a mana value of 2, 1 and 1 white mana. It has a keyword, Bushido 1, which means when this creature blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It is important to note that Bushido only cares about triggering when that condition of blocking or blocked is met. It does not care how many creatures are blocking it or how many creatures Sensei Golden Tail is blocking, just so long as it is becoming blocked or becoming blocking. So a very cool combat mechanic, but it is limited to the number of times it blocks per turn. And it has an activated ability for 1 and a white mana, and tapping, you can put a training counter on target creature. That creature gains Bushido 1 and becomes a samurai in addition to its other creature types. Activate only as a sorcery. Now, I don't know if I've talked about this with the other samurai commanders from this set, but it is important to note that each instance of Bushido will trigger separately. So if you were to put a training counter on Sensei Golden Tail, it would have 2 instances of Bushido 1. So as soon as it becomes blocked or is declared as a blocker, it will gain Bushido 1, which will then make it a 3-2, and then it will gain the second Bushido 1, which will make it a 4-3. So the more you can stack those training counters, the more effective the Bushido becomes, and that is really, really cool, and I can't wait to dive into this commander with that mechanic. It is important to note that the training counter just marks which creatures have been changed. An effect that removes the counter doesn't change the creature's type or abilities. And I think that what that comes down to is training counter, that creature gains Bushido 1 and becomes a samurai in addition to its other. Yeah, so essentially you can remove that training counter, but that creature will still have Bushido 1 and is a samurai in addition to its other types. They just put the counter as part of the text, simply as a reminder, this does have a training counter, therefore it gets these abilities. Which I think is pretty smart, obviously. If you just had to be able to put Bushido 1 and make it a samurai on just without the counter, things could get confusing very quickly. So I do appreciate that attention to detail. And then secondly, note that multiple instances of Bushido ability each trigger separately, which is what I was saying earlier. If a creature has Bushido 1 and Bushido 5, then when that creature becomes blocked or is assigned as a blocker to a creature, both of those Bushidos will trigger. The first one, you can stack it however. The first one we'll say is Bushido 1, so it would give it +1/+1, and then the Bushido 5 would trigger, giving it an additional +5/+5. So that creature, for that combat step, if it's blocking or becomes blocked, gets +6/+6. And that continues for multiple other instances of Bushido. You can have 4 instances of Bushido 1, which would give it a total of +4/+4, which is really, really cool. Since we're going to be able to turn any of our creatures into samurai, I thought an interesting and flavorful and of course synergistic card to go with this commander would be the Oathkeeper, Takeno's Daisho, mostly because of the, is it the second line of text? The second line of text here is, whenever a equipped creature is put into a graveyard from play, or whenever a equipped creature dies. I'll see if I can just read the actual text here. Oathkeeper, blah blah blah. Whenever a equipped creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control if it's a samurai card. So this is a great form of protection for your samurai Bear in mind, obviously, if the dice show is put into the graveyard, then the equipped creature is exiled. So be mindful of that. But this is a great way to protect your samurai that's equipped to this. I do believe that if the creature that died and it comes back, if it was not originally a samurai, it will revert back to its original state. So if a dragon became a samurai, had the Oathkeeper, and then it died and it came back, it would come back just as a dragon. So you'd have to put another training counter on it to make it a samurai again. So bear that in mind, but very cool and very flavorful equipment for this commander. The deck idea, obviously, that I want to build around is one of my favorite creature types of all time, Samurai, and I am going to be utilizing the Bushido mechanic as much as I can, but I'm also going to be using the new Samurai mechanic from Neon Dynasty, which really is just exalted for Samurai and Warriors. So this is going to be an exalted deck that focuses on Samurais and uses the Bushido mechanic as an offensive but mostly defensive mechanic, which is going to be really fun. Very creature heavy, very combat focused, but in a very cool, exalted combat way, which I think is really cool. A popular deck idea on EDH Rec is, of course, equipments. Mono White is really, really good at equipments. It's really, really good at auras, and so this is a great commander to beef up with a bunch of equipments, with a bunch of auras, give itself a ton of Bushido counters, and go in very hard with amazing amounts of commander damage. And then lastly, a weird, janky build around for this commander is, of course, going to be Proliferation. It's going to be, I think this is a really cool idea. I think in reading this card in greater detail, this might need some more work on it. Let me see. Put a training counter on that creature gains Bushido 1 and becomes a Samurai in addition. So I think I may have misread the card a little bit here, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Originally I was thinking we would just proliferate the counters, because the counters are going to give more of the Bushido. I think I misread that initially when building this presentation, because in the rules reading it does specify that the counter simply marks the creature that you did give the ability to. So instead of this being a fun janky build around idea, I think this slide right here is going to be more of a try to avoid this build around, because simply putting more training counters does not put more Bushido on the creature. If you want to put more Bushido on the creature, you're going to have to use Sensei Golden Tail's ability multiple times. So instead of building a proliferation deck, I would say focus more on a tap, untap, use activated abilities shenanigans deck, which you can do in white. It's not totally supported in white as much as proliferation is, but you can do untap, tap shenanigans in white, and there are equipment in that you can easily get with mono white that can double up triggered or activated abilities of Sensei Golden Tail, so then you can get more Bushido on your creatures. So don't build a proliferation deck. Let me know in the comments if I'm completely wrong on this, but don't build this deck that you see on the screen. Build one that's focused around using activated or triggered abilities as much as possible. And that is going to do it for Sensei Golden Tail. Very cool commander. Of all the Samurai commanders, this is probably one of the coolest from this set, because it can make any of your creatures into Samurai and give them Bushido. So it doesn't rely solely on Samurai being in play for it to do its thing, which I think is really cool. People have obviously really liked this commander because they build a lot around this commander. I think there was like 12 different deck ideas I could find on EDH Rec, not including some of the ones I did for this video. But really cool stuff for this commander, really awesome and very interesting to build around for sure. So I'd love to hear you guys' comments. Thank you guys so much for watching and for all of your support. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!